Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's Eileen if you're new, and I'm happy to have you along with me tonight. I'm very excited. It's another round of seed planting. Every day the sun is out a little bit longer, the temperatures feel a little bit warmer, and I'm super excited to get some seeds started tonight. So what are we going to do tonight? Tonight we're going to plant some broccoli and peppers and start all of the native plants, the native seeds that we have been cold stratifying in the refrigerator. Some species need a little bit longer than others, so my 60-day seeds have been in since the beginning of January. My 30-day seeds have been in since the beginning of February, and today is the day to start planting them. So join me as we get our hands dirty a little bit tonight and get these seeds going. I'll also give you a little bit of an update. If you watch some previous videos, you know that I started some onion seeds back around Valentine's Day, and I'll give you a little update on how they're doing as well. Thanks for stopping by. Hello, welcome back. So I've got my seed trays all filled, and I'm using 32 cell trays this year so that, let's see if I can lift it up here for you to see. Each individual pot is going to be a little bit deeper, and that'll mean that I don't have to transplant the seedlings into a bigger pot until a little bit later in the season. So I'm going to start with some of my vegetables, and I'm going to start with some peppers and broccoli. And these are 2 seed packets left over from last year. So one is the Sweet California Wonder, and this other one here is Wisconsin Lakes. And I like to try and use heirloom seeds whenever I can for a lot of reasons. And I try to source organic seeds as well to make sure that the seeds that the plant that the seeds came from wasn't treated with any kind of pesticides or herbicides as well. And then I'm going to do 2 different kinds of broccoli, mostly because one of these broccolis did better than the other, and I can't remember which one I planted last year, and that was the one that did better. So we're going to do both of them. I'll do 3 plants of each variety, and we'll see which one does okay. We like a lot of broccoli in here, and I like to grow broccoli because as I harvest it, I can, blanch it and freeze it. And then we've got a lot of fresh grown, homegrown broccoli throughout the rest of the season. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the camera so you guys can see the planting tray and show you what I do. And then one last thing, because again, I'm putting the dome over the tray until the seeds germinate. I don't have labels to put in, so I always just create a little grid where I list out which plants I'm putting in which rows. And then after they all germinate and I can take the dome off, then I can get labels, or I just leave these here next to the tray until I pot them up to bigger pots. And then I'll use regular, plant labels, either like little popsicle sticks or something like that. So this is my little guide, and I'm going to start with the peppers. So I'll go ahead and get the camera so that you can see what I'm doing. Good morning. It's one of those beautiful spring mornings. I don't think we're fully into spring yet. We're at the end of March. Welcome back to Through the Garden Gate. And it's one of those great days where I can get out and do a bunch of chores. I'm out here watering some of my winter sowing starts that I'll show you in a second. But why don't we take a little walk around the yard and I'll let you know some of the jobs I'm going to try and get done today. We'll see how many we have or that we can accomplish. Usually my to-do list is way bigger than the amount of time I have to accomplish that list, but we're going to go ahead and see what we can get done today. Thanks for joining me. All right, so give you a quick little pan of the yard, and then I'll show you the things I'm hoping to get done today. And we'll go out to the front yard because there's quite a few jobs out there to do today as well. All right, so let's start with some of the planters that I did not clean up last fall. These were just some ornamentals that I put in the fall. I had other plants or flowers, annuals in there in the spring and summer. This year, my goal is to try and plant this fully in native plants, and I'm gonna give it a shot and see how that goes. I've got some ideas. I'll pop some pictures up here of some of the plants I'm hoping to put into here. But this all needs to be torn out. I bought some composted manure today. I might throw a little bit in there just to enrich this soil. This pot over here also needs to be cleaned up. Again, I'm going to try and add some native plants to that pot and see how it does. And then here are the winter sowing trays that I've got. Kind of winter sowing. I did a little differently. I was hoping to grow them all indoors, but I ran out of space under my grow lights. So what I did is I had stratified the native seeds. I think I did a video on that already. And when I planted them, they had already, been exposed to their winter conditions. And I just decided to throw them outside and see how they do. And now that we're getting, the daylight's getting a little bit longer, we're getting some warmer temperatures, start to see some of the little friends starting to come up, which is very exciting. This tray over here is some of my milkweeds. Get a better look at those. So these are either prairie milkweed or butterfly milkweed. I'd have to look at my little chart that I made to know for sure. Once I get their first set of true leaves, I should be able to tell the difference. And yeah, so that's that. I just watered those with this fun little pump mister, which I really like. This is a new addition. I fill it up with water, you pump the handle, and then you get a nice fine mist so you don't blow away any little seeds or disturb the soil too much. So keeping on to what's going on the deck, there's my little gardening buddy Earl. He's excited. This pot was pretty much cleaned out. I just got to tidy it up a little bit, maybe add a little bit more soil to it, some of that composted manure. And again, I'm going to try and use all native plants in the garden this year, or in the pots. Maybe not all. I do have some zinnia seeds because I love zinnias. The other big job I need to get done today, these are the onions that we started from seed a few weeks back. They're doing great. They do need to be trimmed to keep them from flopping over in the seed trays here. I do need to trim them back. That's probably one of the first jobs I'll do, is cut them back to about 4 or 5 inches. And I save the tops, and we use those as like chives. This is kind of fun. I've missed pretty much an entire row somehow when I was planting seeds. Anyway, and then I'm going to let them hang out outside. They've been outside for, 30 minutes or so now. I'm starting the process of hardening them off, getting them used to being in outdoor temperatures before I fully transplant them into the garden. Probably, third or fourth week of April. All right, what else do we have going on here? Come on, Earl. So all of these beds here that have all of last year's plant material and things I'm going to leave for a few more weeks or maybe another week or so. But one of the jobs I have to do is kind of cut back all of last year's growth and get some of the stems and stuff out of there. But you can see there's some of the native columbine popping in. And once I start to see a few inches of growth like that, that's my cue that I can go ahead and start cleaning up the garden. Anything that's hibernated in all of that plant material over the winter is starting to wake up as well. So quite a few things are popping up here. Some more columbine tucked in here. This is some Jacob's ladder, which is really fun. I love that. It's pretty light blue flowers towards the end of April. These are some of my ferns. They're not going to wake up for quite a while. Just the way the different wind patterns blow around out here, I get, big piles of leaves, and some areas get blown bare. The arbor, I fixed that. In a previous video, I showed you how that had blown over, and I cleaned that up a bit. I had to cut back quite a bit of the clematis. I'm hoping it comes back. I've seen little buds. I think it'll do fine. And then this is a look at the north bed that we trimmed a bunch of the shrubs over here in an earlier video. These sedges here, this is common wood sedge. I'll put the scientific name up on the screen. I can't remember which one it is, if it's Carex blanda maybe. Anyway, these have done beautifully here. They adapt to quite a variety of conditions. So I think for some of the bigger ones last fall, I kind of sliced some of them in half and transplanted them around the yard. I might do that again just to fill in a new garden bed area. And oh wow, my shrubby St. John's wort. It's really leafing out. That's so fun. Look at that. This big group of things here by the bird bath, that's bee balm, Monarda fistulosa. I'm going to give that another week or two before I start cutting some of those stems back. And I won't cut them all the way to the ground. I'll do a video to show you what I do. But I like to leave some of the stems up for our native ground or cavity nesting bees. Some more Jacob's ladder over here. Oh, here's a fun one. So this is celandine poppy, and it'll get these gorgeous big yellow flowers. There is an invasive plant called lesser celandine. This is not it. This is the native plant. Oh, yeah, sorry, just got excited. I see lots of violets blooming, which is exciting. Let me take you over there to show you the violets. Usually, I was wondering, because usually I have them by the end of March. Here we go. This is our common violet. And there's a few here. There's some at the base of that Shorts aster back there. Oh, this is fun. So a lot of people treat these as weeds in their yard, but I like to leave them. Our native fritillary butterflies will eat the leaves, and the violets are the only plant that their caterpillars can eat. I've never seen one in the yard, but I'm hoping one day to see one. But I'm very excited. It's the first native bloom. And these spread like crazy all over my yard. So I just let them go. They're a nice ground cover. Another big job that I hope to get done here. A lot of the leaves are kind of concentrated up here at the front of the bed. I'm going to get the leaf blower out and kind of fluff these up a little bit just to give things a chance to grow through the leaves. Another thing I have to do is you can see some turf grass has gotten in the beds. So I'm going to have to get that out of there as well. Columbine self-seeds really easily in this bed, so you may see some of that popping up as well. Alright, so this is another corner of the garden. So you can see again, I left all this stuff sitting up all winter long. I mentioned I like to try and see a few inches of fresh green growth before I start to trim back. So this one's not quite ready. I'm going to hold off on this one. But back in the corner here, those clumps of green there, that's Joe Pye weed. And that's enough growth back there that you can see it's been self-seeding as well. I also have the native hibiscus here. That doesn't seem to be leafing out yet, but I will trim back some of those Joe Pye weed stems. There's a few tulips left over from previous gardens back there. And just a tiniest little peak of purple coneflower leaves starting to come up. There we go. So it'll be a good time to get in here. The soil's somewhat dry, where I can kind of walk around in here without doing too much damage and compacting the soil too much. Some more purple coneflower coming up. I can do a little cleanup. Oh boy, this bed. So back in here, I've got New England aster. Oh my goodness, the dog. What's Earl doing? He always gets very curious when I come walking around the garden. He thinks there must be something for us interesting to look at. And then he also brings half the yard inside with him. So anyway, eventually, once I see some leaves from the New England asters, I'll go ahead and cut those back a bit. And then this whole area that's pretty bare right now, very shortly, we should be seeing May apples popping up. And then in the corner where the bucket is, will be a whole clump of columbine, and then I put a little solar powered fountain in that bucket, and it's kind of fun. You don't really see the bucket, but you hear the water. All right, continuing the tour around. That was just the New England aster. I don't know if you hear the woodpecker drumming, another sign of spring. Again, this area, the leaves blew in here in a way that they're very thick, so I'm going to come in either with a rake or the leaf blower and just kind of fluff things up, take some of the extra leaves out. I'll save them to be part of the compost. This is the pond. I made a big boo-boo when I was putting the pond to bed last October, and I forgot to put something I usually put like a big Rubbermaid bin or something in there to kind of pop up the tarp, and I didn't do that. So I've got to get all those leaves out of there, get my pump, and pump out all that water before I can start doing that. But it's still a little early. I'm not completely confident we're totally done with some of our hard freezes. Definitely not. It's the end of March, and we usually got to get to the end of April, beginning of May for that. So, oops, sorry, the dog's getting in the way. But I did want to show you over here. This is our wild hyacinths, and they're starting to peak up. So that'll be fun. I'll show you those flowers in a few weeks when they start to bloom. These are some legacy daffodils from many gardens ago. Looks like they're about to bloom, so that'll be fun. They don't do much, they don't get invasive, so I just kind of leave them. This clump here is bee balm or wild bergamot. Again, the leaves are a little thick in here, so I will loosen those up. I put those in a yard waste bag and then just keep them as part of my compost. As we get into the end of the winter, first part of spring, birds are just really taking advantage of the seeds in these purple coneflowers. This bed along the garage, same thing with the leaves. Oh, I always get so excited. This little clump here of purple. Those are my Virginia bluebells. They're just peeking through. So I'll remove some of the leaves, but not very many of them. Here's some more. Oh my goodness. It's a wonder this garden survives with the dog. So the bluebells there and the celandine poppies there, they bloom about the same time. Sorry for the dog. And it's just a really gorgeous combination. And here's one of my maple leaf viburnums. You see the berries that were left over from last year. The buds are really swelling. Some more celandine poppy. Thought I saw some wild ginger, but I think that's just violet. Bluebells are really coming out. These are the beds, or the cardboard that I put down last year to try and create new beds. So we'll get out here and see how that all worked in a little bit. I'm going to leave it for a few more weeks. I have ordered some plants, bare roots and things like that to put in there. Okay, we've made it to the back corner of the yard where the spice bush that I'm looking at right there. I wanted to show you those buds are really swelling now. This is a pagoda dogwood right here. Let me back up a little bit so you can get a better look at it. So that one's coming in nicely. The buds are starting to swell on this one as well. Just a beautiful tree. Can't wait for it to, hopefully it flowers this year. This is Maple Leaf by Burnham. And I'm going to show you these buds. Because I'm going to show you one on the other part of the yard that I think is dead. This one right here is musclewood. This one's just getting going. Here are, unfortunately, some bare that the dog tramples. I think these are wild ginger. So we'll see how those are doing. Lots more bluebells coming in. Oh my goodness, there's a snail. How in the world did this get here? We don't have native land snails here. So I have no idea how this thing got here. Huh. Lots of little sprouts coming up. The Virginia waterleaf is just starting to peek up. Oh, so exciting. Spring is here. Here's I think this is some wild leek starting to come up. I've planted a few in here. They haven't really taken over very much, unfortunately. I want them to do more. So all in all, we got a lot of signs of spring. I don't know if you can hear that chipping sparrow calling on the back. My little friend, the dog. Let's take a look behind the garage. A little breezy out here, sorry about that. So you're starting to see some green growth back here, mostly the nodding onions. My neighbors, that whole green patch there is snowdrops. Another spice bush right here in the corner. And a bone. What is going on back here? Don't know how that got here. Very interesting. I have no idea. We do have coyotes and foxes in the neighborhood. So I don't know, I've been smelling a fox quite a bit. Oh, there's some onion peeking up in the fence there. I wonder if the fox is bringing items into the yard. So I'll throw the bone there so the dog doesn't get to it. Oh, the sun's coming out, yay! And there's some of the marginal wood fern. It's looking a little sad now, but we get some rain and warmer temperatures and that'll perk right up. All right, so far the big jobs I have to do back here. I gotta trim those onions, let them stay outside just a little bit longer, and then bring them back inside. I'm just starting that hardening off process. And then we'll go to the front yard and I'll show you what I got planned for jobs in the front yard. Oh boy, what has the dog found? Let's see what Earl's found. What you got, buddy? Anybody in there? Oh, not today. All right, so this is Like I said, I got to trim the onions back when they get tall like this. They can flop over and it can break the neck, which is going to be not great. Hold on just a second. I forgot something to put the cuttings into. All right, so we'll use this to hold the cuttings and use them like chives. I try to not, like there's, see if I can bring these a little closer to the camera. That might be easier. There'll be a new little shoot coming up like right here. This little fella right here. I'm not going to cut that one because it's the newest little layer of the onion. Each leaf on an onion is a layer, and the outer leaves are going to be the outer layers, and they grow from the inside out. So I try to avoid cutting those new little ones, but these taller ones that are from the outside, I can cut. I cut them to about 4 or 5 inches. And then, like I said, we save these cuttings and use them like you would chives. And I've been cutting these. This poor little thing is just barely hanging on. I don't know why I'm leaving him in there. We'll get rid of him. Boom, boom. Every couple weeks, it seems like, if not once a week, I have to cut these. And then what I do is I water them from below. So these trays come out, and I water them from below. And about once every other week, I've been doing like a fish seaweed kind of fertilizer mixture, really dilute. Onions do need a little bit of extra help. Some of the things I read say that you should do it, every other, or at least once a week, but I haven't been doing that. That's okay. So once I cut both trays, I'll put these back in the house. They'll have been outside for about 45 minutes or so, which is just fine. And then every day what I'll do, I might even do it again later today, is I love that smell. I'll put them outside for a little bit longer each day. And then by the time I'm ready to transplant them into the garden, it won't be such a shock to them. So let me get the other tray. I could probably cut these even a little shorter. I'm just so nervous about hurting my babies. When you grow these things from seed and you nurture them for weeks and weeks and weeks, I just, don't want anything to happen. Tell you I had this morning for breakfast. I had some scrambled eggs with cuttings from the onions. And there's just nothing better in the spring to have something fresh out of the garden. Yeah, the winds are picking up a little too, and I think it's their first time outside, so I don't want to stress them too much. And then I do have a fan that blows on them in the house a little bit, and then I usually a couple times a day I walk by and I just kind of run my hand over the top like this, just trying to strengthen them a little bit, get them a little tougher. If they just sit in the house without any sort of wind or disturbances, when you put them outside, if you don't really harden them off or get them used to being in the conditions, it can be really hard on them and cause transplant shock. So, all right. So one job done. I always like to start with the easy ones so I could check something off the list. So let's go see what else we have to do. sorry for the little interruption here. During editing, I just wanted to drop in a note to let you know that this video was compiled from clips from across the month of March and into the beginning of April. So I'm kind of hodgepodging it together. And the next little bit is just an update from today, on where all the seeds and everything's at, and a little tour of the garden to give you an update on where things are at there too. Thanks for stopping by today, and hopefully I'll get some videos out on a more regular basis. Please subscribe and hit the like button if you're enjoying the content. Thanks. Talk to you soon. Welcome back. It's a little bit of an update. You've just seen in the video me planting a lot of these seeds, so I wanted to show you where we're at. It's been a few weeks. So in the back here, I've got quite a bit of lettuce that have started. The rosemary and lavender doesn't look like it's doing so great over there, so we'll just see how that goes. It's always an experiment. And then I wanted to share a little bit of my abundance of tomatoes. Now, and peppers. There's no way I can use all these tomatoes and peppers. This is all just one kind. This is Cherokee purple here. But when I planted everything in seeds, and you'll have seen those red solo cups that I used. I had old seed, and so I just planted a bunch, and I then, either what they call them prick out or transplanted them into individual pots, and they've done fantastic. So one of the things I try to do when I do get my starts going is I try to keep the lights. I've raised the lights up a little bit so that you can see the plants a little better, but I keep my lights a couple inches away from the plants themselves so they don't grow and get too leggy. And then every day I try to run a fan on them for a little bit, just not, blowing them to smithereens, but just using the fan to just agitate the plants a little bit so they get some strength to their stems. And then as we move into the end of April and beginning of May, I'll start taking the tomatoes and peppers out a little bit each day to harden them off. So it's usually an hour each day or an hour a day, and then the next day I do 2 hours, the next day I do 4 hours, and then I vary the conditions. As they start to get used to being outside, I start putting them in direct sunlight, and eventually, by the second, third, or sometimes the fourth week of May, because sometimes along the way the weather conditions just don't work out to have them outside, or I'm busy at work and I don't get a chance to put them outside. Usually by Memorial Day, my tomatoes and peppers are in the garden and they're plenty hardened off. So that's an update on them. I'm going to take you over to the other part of the growing area and give you an update on the broccoli and some more tomatoes and peppers. Okay, so here's the other growing area. And again, I planted everything originally in these red cups. And I do a double cup method. So this cup right here that the plant's actually in has drainage holes in the bottom. And then the second cup holds it. And I label both cups to make sure I know what I've got in there. And that Cherokee purple's doing fantastic. And then these that are a little bit smaller in these square pots took a little longer to get going. It took my peppers almost, oh gosh, I think it was well over 2 weeks, if not more, to germinate. And then if I had good germination in any one individual red cup, I pulled out the extras, and I'm planting them in these to get them going, and they're doing really great. This is just fantastic. The broccoli. I did the broccoli in those 32 cell trays, and I tried to put 1 or 2 seeds per cell, but I had a lot of extra. So instead of just pinching them off like I normally would do and just let one keep growing, I tried to transplant them, and they did fantastic. You'll notice, and you may even hear it behind me here. I should probably turn that off. I have a fan going on these to, again, help them get stronger. The broccoli I've been taking out every day. I'm up to about 5 hours a day on the broccoli. My goal is in the next couple of days to get the broccoli in the garden. And again, more broccoli here than I can use in my own garden. In this case, I'm going to give some away to some friends and my sister. and any extra I have, along with all the other extras. And then here are some more peppers. These are the original cups. That's where I originally started everything. And then I lifted out the extras. And a couple of these you can see I still, when I did the transplanting about a week ago, they were still kind of tiny. So I'll probably pinch back these extra two in this one. Um, there's an extra one in this pepper, and there's another tomato there. But some of mine just took forever to germinate. I don't know if it was because it was old seed, but anyway, I got distracted. So any extra tomato and pepper plants I've decided I'm going to try and do a plant sale. So I'll have to update you on that, and it will be probably later in May as we get closer to the time when people can start putting things in their garden. But I figure as long as I've got these plants and I grew them, instead of doing a garage sale, I'm going to do a plant sale. And I'll see if any of my native plants are of any kind of size to do that at that point. And I'm going to take you outside and show you some of those native plants. It's not going well, but we'll see how it ends up being. All right, so we're outside in the garden. I have been doing a little bit of work since the last time I showed you all this when we did the pruning. One thing you'll notice right away are the onions. So I've shown you a few bits of images of the onions along the way. These are definitely going in the garden this weekend. They've been hardening off quite a bit. They're doing really well. They grow like crazy. One of the things I wanted to point out, I don't know, I think I showed you an initial video of me trimming back the onion plants, which I've done and I continue to do almost on a weekly basis because they're just doing fantastic. But I'm excited to get them in the garden. Wait for this car to go by. This bed is going to be all onions and carrots. We eat a lot of both. And I'm going to alternate rows. So the perimeter of the bed will be all onions to hopefully deter the bunnies from wanting to go in the bed and eat the carrots. And then I'll alternate rows as best as I can do with what I've got. This bed over here, you would think in the middle of the day everybody be at work, but they're not. They're driving up and down my street. So we'll see how this goes. I may have planted them too early, but I did peas in this bed. I'm not seeing much evidence. We've had a good amount of, we've had a good amount of rain. There is our first pea coming up. Looks like there's another one over here. That'll be exciting. I'm glad I didn't mess that up. This is one of my winter sowing beds for the native plants. And we're having a lot of good stuff coming up here. I know I shouldn't say anything for sure, but I believe this area right here is Monarda fistulosa, the bee balm. I know these over here are milkweeds, so those are coming up nice, but I have to look at my chart. Look at how tiny some of these are. So I'll let these grow on here for a while, and then I'll do like I did with the peppers and tomatoes. I'll individually lift out plants or little chunks of soil with one or two plants, and I'll put them in bigger pots and let them grow on. I still haven't gotten in here to clean up the parsley yet, but the chives are doing good. We've already been eating off of the chives. It's our Easter tradition every year to have scrambled eggs with chives from the garden. And then some thyme survived the winter, but you can see my rosemary and lavender did not. So I'm going to have to get new ones there. And then this bed over here is another set of peas. One is shelling peas and one is sugar snap peas. And I believe these are the shelling peas. And seeing a little guy coming out there. So that's exciting. All right, well, that's the update here in the front yard and with the plants and how we're doing so far. All right, so here are a few of the trays from the winter sown seeds. I planted them all inside with the idea that I would put them under grow lights, but just didn't have enough room. So then I put them outside, hoping they would just do their thing, since I had already stratified them in the freezer or in the refrigerator for either 30 or 60 days. It's not looking great, but we've had a lot of erratic weather, so I'm not going to give up complete hope. There's a few milkweeds popping up, maybe some Monarda. There were some prairie drop seed, but they're looking pretty sad, pretty pathetic. But native seeds are tenacious, so I'm going to just leave them, trying to keep them watered, and we'll hope for the best. See how they turn out. Thanks for joining me through the garden gate. I hope to see you on the next video. Bye-bye.